Hello, welcome to our Systems Biology podcast. Today we have with us Tahir D'Mello. Tahir graduated, he did BTech in biotechnology from our institute, IIT Guwahati. Then he moved to US to do MS in Yale, and now he is a co-founder and CTO of a new startup, Geon Systems, where I believe they want to converge AI and the robotics to create systems which will help biologists, chemists, and other scientists to outsource our experimental thing to robots, as I understand. Isn't it, Tahir? Uh,
Yes, sir. Outsource is a strong word, but yes, sir, that is the gist
yeah,
of it.
that's a great idea. And so, welcome to the podcast. And thank you for giving time so early in the morning, right, on a weekend. Tahir, I would like to start with, about your background, your childhood, where you are from, and your
Yeah,
academic and, professional journey up to till now.
yeah, yes, for sure, sir. So, I was born and brought up in Goa. Lots of sun, sand, beaches. But personally, I always had a deep interest in science and engineering. I wasn't entirely sure what path I would take. Even in the 11th standard, I took biology because I was still considering medicine at that point. But unfortunately, or fortunately, I guess, I was an engineer at heart. So, I ended up taking the JEE. I ended up getting into IIT Guwahati. And I found a good middle ground for myself, I think, with all of this by, majoring in biotechnology. Yeah, so I had a really great time at IIT Guwahati. We had really good professors, and we had really good people there, seniors, and everyone was really passionate about both this intersection of biology as well as maths and engineering and computer science. It was there where I was first introduced to computational biology, and it was there where I actually did my thesis with Biplab sir. We did a project on systems biology. We used basically mathematical graph methods on gene regulatory networks. So I had a lot of fun exploring, just this intersection where everything touched technology, biology, and during my time in college, I also spent a lot of time interning at biotech companies and pharma companies, both in India and in the US. So, at the end of my time here, I was very confident that I wanted to further explore this area, and that's why I applied to Yale University. I got in for a master's in bioengineering. So, I focused on machine learning again for scientific data there. And sort of one thing led to another, where during my last year, I was considering a PhD, or I was considering, moving to industry. And I actually received an offer on the spot from a company, a startup in San Francisco called Latch Bio. They were a very small company at that point. I think I was employee number 9 or 8. I joined as one of their founding bioinformatics engineers. What they do is they build cloud infrastructure and cloud software for biotech and pharma companies across the US and across the world now. But this was a unique role because I actually got to see what people were doing across sort of scientific disciplines in biology and drug discovery and diagnostics and everything. I was building tooling for them. I was basically helping their scientists on a day-to-day basis. I was building everything from LLM powered sort of literature review systems to very novel custom scientific computational models. And yeah, I had a really great time. I had a great team there. I got to hire, a good couple of people also after I joined onto my team. But while doing this, I think a realization that I came to was no matter how much work I was putting into making the software tooling better, everyone was still bottlenecked by the fact that they had to validate everything physically, which makes sense. This is like a physical discipline. You have to actually test things out in real life. But none of these people were actually using automation or robotics or anything that we've built in the last 20 years in a meaningful way. They were still using pipetting and all of these methods that we've developed 50 years ago. So that I could see as an engineer this massive gap between what technology had to offer and the tooling that scientists were using. And so, yeah, as you know, a natural conclusion of this, I realized that there was space here to actually build much better tooling for all of these very smart people who are trying to develop new methods and new medicines and new drugs for us. So that kind of led us to forming Xeon Systems. My co-founder is also a friend and colleague of mine, Bronte Cola. So we got together. We basically built a first prototype in my bedroom. We applied to an accelerator called Y Combinator. We got in, and yeah, it just kind of like grew from there. Where once we started to build, there was a lot of interest. A lot of people reached out. We ended up raising a seed round of around $4.5 million, and again, as sort of the entire point of the story, one thing led to another, and we now have a team and an office, and are building a lot of cool stuff here.
So it's quite a exciting, groovy time, isn't it?
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
definitely.
actually, I was looking through the your company's web page, and that's quite a smart one. It reminds me the initial days of Google. Just Google written. It's a clean, neat thing without any flashy stuff there.
Yeah,
And I was reading that actually classically the promise technology always had is that it will make human being free of labor. It will emancipate us from labor so that we
yeah,
get free time to think in art, culture, science, and those
yeah,
things flourish. So it
yeah,
seems reading the web page is actually you are telling biologists and chemistry, hey, come out of your lab, let machines do the thing, and you do the thinking part, intellectual part more, right?
yeah, yeah.
Broadly, are you trying to put it making a conveyor belt type of science or something like that? Can you tell us?
Uh, I would say yes. I think conveyor belt is again a very strong way to describe it. It's exactly like you were saying, though. We are trying to basically free scientists from having to do this repetitive physical work that they are doing. We know that they have been trained to think, and that is the biggest value they can provide to society and to everyone around. um, the work they do with pipetting and loading instruments, waiting for results, that is very undifferentiated, low leverage work in our opinion. Some of it is definitely very high sort of skill, some of it is very complex, some of it is art, but a lot of those tasks are not very high leverage. I can give you an example. We work with a postdoc right now at Stanford. He is one of the best researchers in the world at designing nanoparticles for drug discovery, for drug delivery. But every week, he spends a significant chunk of time manually operating a machine called a luminometer. It sounds very complex. It is not. All he does is he takes these tubes, these small tubes, he opens up a flap, puts the tube in, closes the flap, clicks go, waits 5 seconds, writes down a number, waits 10 seconds for the machine to reload, clicks go again. And he does this three times for every sample. He creates around 200 samples every week. So, this is what we mean when we say that there is low leverage, undifferentiated work that's happening every day. And some of our most talented and smart people are doing this work. So, this is a perfect sort of tool to give them so that, when we finish our sort of deployment with him, he will be able to come in, drop his tray of tubes in front of the machine, and our robotic arms will just pick up the tube, open the flap, put it in, close the flap, hit go, with the camera, take a picture of the reading, wait, tap it again, take a picture of the reading, tap it again, and he can walk away and do whatever else he wants. So that's exactly what we're targeting, hands off time for scientists so they can, better leverage their time, think, actually come up with new ideas. Yeah, I think the second thing, also, just in addition to this, we also know that with the sort of tooling we are building, it will allow biologists and chemists to actually design new scales of experiments because now they have tools to collect data at scale. They do not have to rely on hiring an army of technicians. They don't have to work overnight. If they have an idea, they can actually design new experiments that use these automated techniques to actually massively increase the throughput of data they're collecting. So there are a lot of benefits to giving people in this industry, in these sciences, new tooling.
Yeah, it reminds me, see, during the post-human genome era where omics things become popular now, I think big pharma companies also have moved to this robotic system to pipette, media to cell culture plates and doing in the ELISA
Yeah.
plates, something like that, right?
Yeah.
So I was just wondering that those robotic arm things are not absolutely new in that concept, right? But what I am
Yeah.
seeing nowadays, and possibly you can enlighten on that. See, with these large generative LLMs and other things, now people are creating also LLMs, the foundational models in biology. Very recently, something came which is trained completely on genomic data and literature on from PubMed and all these things, right? So these are customized for medical and biological applications, right? Even if you see, I think Claude has yesterday or day before yesterday announced that they will have
Yeah.
that. So what I was wondering, I mean, I'm trying to imagine that, thinking about, you see, now as we are on the verge that LLMs are solving theorems, proposing lemmas,
Yes.
so possibly we can ask the large language model, the generative models, to create new hypotheses based upon the latest publication. Suppose I work
Yeah.
on mitochondria
Yeah.
and some new
Yeah.
hypothesis, and then automatically, maybe with the little intervention and corrections by us human, and then
Yeah.
design a setup experiment and feed it to the machine that, okay, you do the experiment. Do you think that is going to happen in near future?
Yeah. Yeah, that is honestly exactly where things are headed, and I'd actually say we are already there. SF is San Francisco is very excited about what you are describing. They think of this as closed loop science. OpenAI, for example, cares very deeply about this. Anthropic cares very deeply about this. I actually met one of the early, the first 10 engineers at OpenAI. He's retired, multi-millionaire now, but he's actually spun out a new company where they are designing what they call AI scientists. And these sort of AI scientists are exactly what you said. They are a collection of models that take in existing literature, existing ideas, maybe a prompt from a scientist around, a particular space that they want to explore, and generate sort of programmatically new hypotheses to test out. So he actually came to our office and met with us because he wanted a physical hardware endpoint for his AI scientist, and that's something we are approached by pretty often. A lot of these companies that are doing AI scientists, they do want to basically figure out how they can test these ideas out in real life. So yeah, people are very excited. A lot of very important people in the world care very deeply about exactly what you've described, the AI scientists, and I think it just fundamentally makes sense. These LLMs, they maybe are not the best at generating new ideas, but they are very good at taking in existing databases, existing systems of information, and coming up with novel sort of combinations of ideas and patterns from them. And I think there's a lot of untapped potential in just the existing knowledge bases we have. So that's definitely the next step for us, run these closed loop scientific systems.
Yeah, and uh, going from there, see, as you start saying, we were discussing about your robotic thing. See, essentially, you want to make people free of the time wasted on a, what is rudimentary, basic, iterative work, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
similarly, see, another bottleneck in biology that actually makes drug discovery much costlier than space exploration is that, whereas in space exploration it is primarily predictive science. We know
Yeah.
the physics behind it. Largely we know it. Okay, there are unknown things still now, but largely we know the physics, and that physics
Yeah.
can be written down in terms of equations that we teach in schools and
Yeah.
colleges. So you can actually predict exactly what will happen to that spacecraft unless until something bizarrely goes wrong. So the amount of money you are investing, you know where the money is going. Whereas in biological research, even in industrial scale also, it is largely explorative. There are lots of unknown. You do not have largely any predictive model because you do not have the so-called background first principle theories to explain and make a prediction. And if I understand, the people who comes from maths and physics background or engineering background, we always want to create that type of theories, design principles, so that
Yeah.
can actually, right. So I see this is becoming very popular with the development of systems biology and other thing. So you have been also going through all this mathematical biology, computational biology for science, right? So how do you place the importance of mathematics and computing right now in life sciences
Yeah.
in general?
Yeah. I think it's honestly just completely critical. There is no work being done in life sciences or biology right now without computational backing. Every big company, every big lab has a computational wing. And I think, this question actually reminds me a lot of one of the first articles I read in computational biology that you actually start your intro to systems biology course with, sir. Can a biologist fix a radio? I think it's exactly that spirit where we know right now we explore biology from a top-down view where we have a system, we ask a question, and then we perturb the system to like get an answer for the question. But we are trying very hard as a species to figure out how to go from a bottoms up view where we understand the basic design principles of the system, and then piece by piece we can put things together so that we can understand the system right from the most granular level. To do that, like you were saying, our predictive powers in the system need to improve. And I think they are improving. We have better models now, we have better data, and we have better automation to collect the data at scale. So I think these predictive powers and these predictive patterns that we have for physics, that we have for other fields, will also start emerging. I don't think we're there yet, but that's definitely going to be the future of exploring these unstructured, very data rich, very data diverse fields like biology and everything else.
Ah, that's good. I mean, see, as I see over these developments, and I read the paper and or watch the talks and conferences and YouTubes and anywhere, what we see that more and more people from computation, computer science, engineering,
Yeah,
physics are coming and converging into biology, right? And it is
yeah,
nothing new in general. If you look into biology, historically, people from different other field has always participated and contributed majorly, right? Major breakthroughs has come from people who are coming from other fields of sciences like physics, maths, and in general, right? But of late, engineering people, students who are people who have got educated in thoroughly in engineering, worked in engineering field, are also picking up problems related to biology. And as you were saying earlier, that when you started working in your first job, right? You were hiring people of different skills, right? They may not be
yes,
necessarily coming from biology background. They may have be coming from other background, which you require to build your pipeline and develop your tools and all
yeah.
these things. So, can you tell us, particularly for the students, that how, particularly the students of engineering, not just necessarily BTech biotechnology, in general, other fields of engineering also, computer science, electronics, mechanical per se, or people who are
Yeah,
doing graduations in physics and math, that
yeah,
what is their position in biology vis-a-vis biology?
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a great question. I think firstly, biology and these living systems, that's the way I think of it now, will always be the last frontier for humanity. If we figure out artificial intelligence, we will still need to take care of our bodies. If we figure out how to go to space, we will still need to take care of our environment. So no matter what we do in terms of development, in terms of technology, there will always be a need to build systems, to build solutions, to build sort of corrective models for the living systems, including us in the world, basically. Now, when it comes to actually doing it, there is a massive need for people who understand maths, who understand physics, who understand, chemistry, computation, and everything in the stack, basically. Because all of these systems are more complex than anything else we have around it. All of it is diverse, all of it is interconnected. These are probably some of the densest networks, the most complicated sort of systems we have, and we need people who have deep understanding of theory to work on them, be it mathematical theory or physics theory or just again computer systems. We are struggling right now as a species to make these sort of models, to make these systems, because we do not have enough talent dedicated to this space right now. As like a if you look at it overall, we need more and more people to dedicate themselves to these spaces to really take on these problems, because they are some of the hardest problems we have as a species. So I would definitely say that there is massive space, there's so much untapped potential, there is so much progress to be made too in all of these open living spaces, open living science fields.
So as I understand, as I talk to many of our alumni who are in biopharma industry or also in other
Yeah.
consulting firm and other things, what I realize actually nowadays, a many big consulting firm particularly has some sort of vertical which is related to biological sciences, and people from diverse field are also joining that force. So as you have worked in initially one another startup, now you're in this
Yeah.
startup, so you must be hiring people, right? So
Yes.
in that case you also hiring people of different types of talent, right? So how do you think, see, suppose if you want to encourage, I mean, if we say that somebody who is studying engineering right now and has a broad
Yes.
interest in biological industry related to biomedical sciences or biology, right? How should they start
Yes.
preparing themselves for? What do you want
I
to see
think.
in them?
Yeah, I think the way they should start preparing themselves is the same way they prepare themselves for any data oriented job. There are so many data sets available online. Pick a data set, do an interesting project, post about it on, Twitter or anything else, and just show people that it is a field you care about, you are talented computationally, you're talented, scientifically, and you can actually come up with solutions. The minute you do that, there will be people who will look at you, there will be people who will consider you both for academic positions, for industry positions, for tech jobs. You just need to basically show that there's interest, there is passion, and you can follow through with good execution.
Yeah, it reminds me, see, if I remember correctly, you at the back end of your BTech, it was a Corona time, something like COVID
Yes. Yeah.
epidemic time, and you were also doing internship, you're doing a long-term project with some companies, right?
Yes.
So,
Yeah. Yes.
you think that that actually gives a very helpful push in, a
Yes.
career
Yeah.
as a whole?
Definitely, it's all a snowball effect. I started off. I think the first thing I did, it was actually in the I think Kapili hostel at IT Guwahati. I picked, I think, a data set of malaria cells, and me and another friend of mine, Siddhan Jagtap, he was also on the same major as me at IT Guwahati. We built a small CNN to basically define whether a cell was infected with malaria or not. That led to me talking to another professor. That led to me getting an internship at this company out of IT Bombay. Then I used that to get a bigger internship, a more long term internship at this company in the US. So you have to start somewhere, and I think that is honestly the best advice. Pick a data set, pick something you find interesting, and just figure out how you can use technology and these systems we now have to solve that problem in the data set.
Yeah, what you need is just a laptop and a good internet connection, isn't it? And
Exactly.
the interest
Yes.
to
Yeah.
start and explore.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what actually, that's where the excitement is all about. The advantage, as I keep on telling, is that computational and mathematical biology keeps you free. You don't need a huge amount of investment to learn. If you have
Yes.
passion or interest in it, there are hundreds of resources. And as you've done correctly and said rightly here, that if these internships really help, just like if you want a career in quantitative finance, you do some internship with some bank or investment companies. So similarly also
Yeah.
this. Okay, thanks a lot, Tahir. We come to end of today's podcast. Thank you for joining us out of your busy schedule. It is a early morning. I thought it must be a weekend. You must have other plans to enjoy the weekend, and maybe also maybe weekend hiring or weekend discussion on your new venture. Thank you again for joining with us. Thanks a lot.